Welcome to The Project. Tonight, another huge day of testimony from Erin Patterson in the Leongatha mushroom murder trial. The prosecution finally getting the opportunity to question the woman they accuse of triple murder. It's the moment we've been waiting for. The prosecution unleashing on Erin Patterson, who today was cross-examined for the first time. Grilled about the lies she told police.
You lied about dehydrating food and mushrooms because you knew that if you told police the truth, then that would implicate you in the poisoned lunch. Agree or disagree?
I agree that I lied because I was afraid I would be held responsible.
You knew that if you told police the truth, then you would be immediately suspected by police of being involved in a poisoning event.
That's probably true, yes.
And questioned about evidence from a senior doctor at Monash Health who testified Patterson had told her she had never foraged for mushrooms.
Do you accept that Professor Stewart asked you if you'd been mushrooming?
I accept that that's what she said.
Did you, in effect, say no to Professor Stewart?
To which question?
If you'd been mushrooming.
I don't remember that conversation.
Patterson also asked about several photographs found on a tablet in her home which show mushrooms being weighed on electronic scales.
I suggest that you were weighing these death cap mushrooms so that you could calculate the weight required for the administration of a fatal dose for one person. Agree or disagree?
Disagree.
The prosecution then pushing Patterson on testimony from sole survivor Ian Wilkinson, who claims she told the lunch guests she had cancer.
Did you tell the lunch guests that you had cancer?
I did not.
Ian Wilkinson's evidence is that you went on to talk about a diagnostic test.
I think I talked about that. I'd been undergoing some testing.
Ian Wilkinson's evidence is that it showed a spot on the scan that was a tumour.
I remember him saying that in his evidence, but I don't believe I said that.
The prosecution's theory?
I suggest that you never thought you would have to account for this lie of having cancer because you thought that the lunch guests would die and your lie would never be found out.
That's not true.
Erin Patterson has pleaded not guilty to all charges.
Well, live from the lands of the Cooler Nation, Erin Pearson is the Age's crime and justice reporter. She's been in the Morwell court again today. Erin, obviously that was a reenactment we did, but that was a huge assertion from the prosecution, a big moment. What was that moment like in the courtroom?
Yeah, that's right. Nanette Rogers, the Crown Prosecutor, was raring to go today. She seemed to not be able to get to her feet quick enough to start asking questions after the accuser's defence barrister has taken her through questioning for the last couple of days. And the cancer diagnosis, or lack of, was a really big part of Nanette Rogers' questions today. And right towards the end of the day, that focused on how and why you were coming up with this so-called cancer con, was the way that it was described. And after denying that she said to her lunch guests that she had cancer, she was asked that question. Did you lie? And did you think that that lie would ever come out? And she said she didn't, maintains that she didn't lie deliberately, but she did lie in order to garnish some love and support from her family.
Erin Patterson also refuted some of the evidence from sole survivor Ian Wilkinson. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so a lot of the propositions that came out during his evidence was put to the witness today. And Ian Wilkinson had explained to the jury that his recollection of conversations at the lunch table on that fateful day was about the fact that he believed Erin Patterson had told the lunch guests she had cancer and that she needed some help and support in figuring out how to break the news to the children and whether or not she should break the news to the children at all. Other evidence was also put to her from Simon Patterson, her estranged husband. Now, the jury were told that the day after the lunch, his father, who died after the lunch, had said to him similar things, that his recollection was that Erin Patterson had shared that she had cancer and was concerned about how she was going to break the news to the children. When this was put to Erin Patterson, she said she didn't really have a recollection of that. She didn't believe that she told the lunch guests that day that she definitely had cancer or that there was any plans for treatment.
The court heard that Erin Patterson hid mushrooms in food she fed to her children. What can you tell us there?
That line of questioning from the prosecution was largely around whether or not in the lead up to the lunch, in the months before the lunch, Erin Patterson had been hiding ground up, dehydrated, dried mushrooms in her children's food. Now, she agreed. She said, yes, she had been doing this and her intention was to use mushrooms and to hide them in food. And that was the activities that she'd been doing. But she denied that she did this as any form of practice for anything. And she said the reason that she did that was because she wanted to get more vegetables into her children's food.
Erin Pearson, thanks so much again for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, it's time for us to take a break. We'll see you soon. Welcome back. We are watching The Project.
Time to see what's making news today. And the future of the Tassie Devils AFL team hangs in the balance after Tasmania's Parliament passed a vote of no confidence in Liberal Premier Jeremy Rockliff. The Speaker cast the deciding vote against him after the ballot was tied at 17 in favour, 17 against. The dilemma for the Devils? Their existence is tied to the proposed Hobart Stadium, the Premier's pet project. Rockliff is now expected to call an early election.
Make no mistake, this will be an election that Tasmanians don't want and Tasmania cannot afford.
The timing here is really important, right? Because it's just another delay. And I'm looking at this from the perspective of that Tassie Devils
mainland
team.
sports fan perspective rather than...
100%. And I understand the costs, and it's like now a very costly election's going to happen too. So that's just going to mount on all of the criticism that's coming towards this stadium. But the licence for that team is so intricately linked with there being a stadium with a roof.
And this is one and done, right? Like, if Tassie doesn't close the deal here and get its AFL team, it's walking away. I don't think this is coming back, not for another generation, several, if ever.
Totally.
But what's interesting to me is there is no pressure, it seems, on the AFL, generally, from the AFL community, to change its rules or to change its requirements.
I think they're being like, if you want it, come get it type energy.
Yeah, but a Tassie team would be so important.
Be great for the country as well, I think. Also, it's important for me as a Sydney Swans fan. I need a new team that's worse than the Sydney Swans to come into the league.
First of all, how dare you?
Oh.
Also, I'm still hopeful, and I think watch this space. We'll see what happens.
Susie's going to crank it up.
Yeah, I love that. Yusuf's on the case. Now, switching to the NRL, guys, another great Australian sport. Listen closely to this clip I'm going to show you. I'm not sure why Storm coach Craig Bellamy decided to do his press conference on the set of a horror movie, but he did.
Oh.
Listen.
All good.
Now, I investigated because I thought someone had been murdered. Apparently, a front rower saw a mouse. That's all that happened. Yeah.
I actually think it was me, because they were like, the Storm's going to win again.
All right, it's more news now. Australia Post is arming its posties with citronella spray so they can better defend themselves against dog attacks.
Oh, yeah.
The non-harmful, water-based weapon is being provided following a rise in dog-related incidents. An average of 9 posties for victim every day.
It looks good. It looks like it works really well. A quick spray in their direction, and it seems to deter them.
And opposition leader Susan Lee is just one of the senior pollies who've condemned comments made by former Liberal Party President Alan Stockdale about assertive women. During a Zoom call with the New South Wales Liberal Women's Council on Tuesday, Stockdale suggested Liberal women were, quote, sufficiently assertive now, and the party should be giving some thought to whether it needs to protect men's involvement. Stockdale has since apologised, claiming he was just joking.
I don't know whether it was a joke or not, but this does distill the central problem the Liberal Party has, where the membership is so different from the electorate.
Yeah.
And it is very hard to do anything about bringing those two things together. And it's especially a problem when most of your numbers, or a lot of your numbers, are in the Senate, because they respond to the party membership, not the electorate.
Well, I choose to give it no more time. It's the 5th of June, and history, like birthday cake, is best served on the day it's made.
And wait, 5th of June, I'm just realising that I forgot Mum's birthday. But as I say to Mum every year, don't worry, there's always next year.
But Sam, there's still time. There's literally still time.
No, Susan, it's too late, OK? Because it's time for On This Day.
Well, besides my sister Christine, who doesn't love a banana? Well, today, in 1876, the Yanks began their love affair with the bananas when the curved king of comedy fruit was first introduced to the public. And 7 days later, the first banana bread recipe was invented. And 2 days after that, they toasted it and charged us $8 more.
Speaking of fruit, personal computers changed forever in 1977 when the world's first practical PC, the Apple II, went on sales, which means today is also the first day someone sent an email saying, I'm a Nigerian prince, you can have all my money.
And I won't fall for that again. When it comes to trains, I choose the Orient Express, which set off from Paris for the first time on this day in 1883. Now, pretty sus that both Colonel Mustard and Professor Plum had tickets, indubitably.
Hits were never the same after Elvis and his pelvis. Not bad, huh? Wow, crowds with his iconic 1956 TV performance of Hound Dog. Look at this.
Oh, yeah.
me down. It was officially the sexiest televised dance until this happened. Also, fun fact, I typed into Google dance that Waleed finds sexy, and that's what came back. Isn't that weird? So
Now,
weird.
from hound dogs to prowling pussy, grow up, Sam. Today, in 1983, Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical Cats won the Tony Award for the Best Musical, which is a shock because I thought that people in the 80s had impeccable taste.
You had me at the word pussy. In 1988, some random broke the world record for popping. Get this, a champagne cork. 54 metres. Isn't that amazing? And since then, every weekend, white women gather in the eastern suburbs of Sydney attempting to break that record.
One day. Oh, that's right, I'm not white. In case I can see ya, good afternoon, good evening and good night, because The Truman Show hit American screens in 1998 today. Imagine just going about your day while hundreds of cameras are tracking your every move and just stop it.
Got you, Cynthia.
I'm kidding, don't stop it.
That's it. Guys, in Sydney, Kay Cotty made history in 1988. I love Kay Cotty, becoming the first woman to sail around the world solo. Now, I'm not sure why Kay did it, but the other day I strummed Wonderwall on my acoustic guitar and my girlfriend said, I'm going to sail around the world solo.
And finally, happy birthday to the smooth jazz maestro Kenny G.
G-Man.
The king of sexy sax turns 69, and sometimes it's just a number. Kenny short for Kenneth and G short for...
G-string.
That is correct, Sam.
And that was the sexiest edition of On This Day. I love history.
I'm learning so much. We've got to take a break. We'll be right back.
America, watching the project.
Our next guest is wickedly talented. Ahead of her album release, I sat down with Cynthia Erivo to chat about her beautiful bond with with Ariana Grande, Forgiveness, and also Vicks Vapor Rub.
You're green. I am.
Cynthia Erivo just might have one of the most iconic voices of all time. Before she starred as Elphaba in one of the biggest blockbusters of the year with Ariana Grande, Cynthia was already a West End legend. Winning an Emmy, a Tony and a Grammy for The Colour Purple. And she's no stranger to the Oscars stage either. Despite being half of Hollywood's busiest duo, she's found the time to release her second album, I Forgive You. Cynthia, hi.
Did you give me a message from your nieces?
Yes, I did. Well, it was my girlfriend's little girls just after they saw Wicked, and they said,
you have to be good and you have to be kind to everybody.
Whoa.
And she is a good witch.
I remember things like that.
Oh.
They're sweet, like they don't need to know that, but they just do. They got it. That was the thing that astounded me the most. They got it. These two sweet babies got it.
the new album is beautiful, but some of the lyrics, Cynthia, they're actually a little bit brutal. At one point, you opened the album, I think, by saying, viciously unkind. I'm viciously unkind. I mean, did you think of softening it ever so slightly? Well-intentioned, but unkind. Like, what's your thought process?
So that is an interpolation of a song called Why, originally by Annie Lennox. It doesn't let me off the hook. Like, if that's me singing it, I may be mad, I may be blind, I may be viciously unkind. It immediately says, I'm not always perfect, and I'm not always, like, the nicest person in the room, or sometimes I'm not necessarily my best self, but that doesn't mean that I can't see what's going on in front of me.
Well, forgiveness is such a huge theme of this album. Do you think it's a greater gift to be forgiven or to forgive?
I think it's different. I think it's a greater gift to the person who forgives. I think. Because there is a freedom that comes with deciding, you know what? I'm okay. It's okay. I forgive you.
Is that something that came naturally to you?
Now it does. Not necessarily, like, if you'd have asked me 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would have said absolutely no. Yeah. And I'm a Capricorn, so I don't forget anything.
let's get back to some of these lyrics. One lyric in particular that stuck out to me and hit me really hard. She has Vicks at the ready and her hand goes to my chest.
You know what Vicks is?
Of course I know what Vicks is. Of course.
It's that. It's like the tenderness, the intimacy of someone going, oh, okay, I'll go get the Vicks.
That's exactly what it is. It reminded me of my mum, even at 34 years of age. You know, if I have a cold or a sniffle or something, she'll be like, have you got Vicks? Immediately, on the text.
My mum is the same.
Yeah.
Did you have Vicks? Where's the Vicks?
Yeah.
Did you know it's something that will heal? Yeah. I'm so glad you said that.
Of course. What do you think is then the best way to be taken care of?
If someone just knows, oh, maybe should we go for a walk? Or go for a drive? Well, maybe we'll sit and watch a movie. Do you want a snack? I'm going to get my snack and I'll get your snack. You know, it's that. Those little things, yeah.
Another theme throughout the album is really kind of this self-advocacy or self-love, I guess. So, Cynthia Erivo, what is your guide to self-advocacy?
To self-advocacy. First, I think it starts at knowing who you are, like making the discovery about who you are first, not in anyone else's eyes, but your own. Then there's the scary thing of going, I think there are some relationships that I need to let go of. And I think that's the guide, becoming brave enough to make the changes that you need in your life in order to get the things that you want, not just from your work or your creativity, but the people that you allow around you. Yeah.
I really want to talk about you and Ari because I got to see that beautiful bond, that friendship in person. Does she influence your art or has she?
Not necessarily, but I really appreciate and I treasure, I think the word is treasure, her opinion. I trust her ears. Like what she hears, I trust it, right? So if I'm like, oh, I'm not sure about this, I'll send it to her. I haven't listened to this. What do you think of this? You know, because not many people are made like her, you know? I think she understands how I'm made and I understand how she's made musically and the way we are creatively. So to be able to share some of that work has been really, really wonderful, actually. Yeah, she's one of a kind.
Well, Cynthia, I treasure these conversations that we have been so fortunate to have. Thank you so much for the chat again. And Vicks forever. Vicks forever.
Thank you very much.
Mwah.
You guys have got a bond.
Thank you. Thank you. I think so. I think so. And I think Cynthia, she thinks so as well. But Cynthia's album is called I Forgive You and it's out tomorrow. Listen, it's wonderful.
Now, imagine jumping on the train and seeing Noel Gallagher sitting in the middle of a carriage full of commuters. That is what happened in London. The Oasis star, there he is. He was spotted getting on the District Line tube at Paddington Station. He was reportedly on his way to the first full rehearsal of the Oasis reunion tour, which kicks off next month.
Love it.
Would you believe it was him?
No.
No.
I'd be like, gosh, I saw a guy who looked a lot like Noel Gallagher today.
Yes.
Even if I was on the District Line in London, where it's highly possible.
Your brain would just trick you, right? Because it'd be like, that's nuts.
Sitting there like that.
He's got that real train look about. You know, when the weight of the world, you're just like, what is going on in my life? Like, I've never felt like I related to a celebrity more than that.
Yeah, but that could well sum up how he's feeling about getting back.
Guys, let's go over to Sky News. Peter Credlin, she's got my favourite segment. It's called Words Matter. I'm not sure if you've watched it before, but it's all about words. Now, I'm not sure if this was planned, but they really articulated the point beautifully. Now, this is Words Matter.
Okay. Yep.
Yep, all right. So no
I've
words.
got no audio.
Right, fantastic. And that's the end of the segment right there. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that... There we go, we're back. Oh, my God. It's fantastic because it feels like performance art on Sky News.
Yeah.
I'm going to nominate that for Tropfest next year. I reckon that wins.
Good. It's like those songs that have nothing in them in order to illustrate the meaning of silence.
Oh, that's so deep, mate. That's so deep.
Oh, man, I've got to have a rest after that. Coming up, could Aussies soon be paying less for cigarettes? The latest pitch to stop smokers turning to the black market. You're watching the Project Sisson. Welcome back. You're watching the project.
Happy birthday to my mum. I just want to
Too
say.
late. Too
I
late.
think it might be a bit too late, Samuel.
Well,
you just said you don't want to do it.
Yeah, it was in July last year, so it's pretty late. It's pretty late. It's pretty late.
Is she a football fan?
She loves the Sydney Swans, like all good people.
No, but what about soccer is what I mean, because it's time for us to say goodbye to our Perth viewers.
Yes.
They're off to watch the Socceroos take on Japan
Massive
and hope to
game.
secure their
Let's
place
go.
in the World Cup 26. Now, for everyone else, more news. And Australia's tobacco tax is under fire, blamed for spawning a booming black market as smokers seek a cheaper deal. Yet, despite growing calls to slash it, the government insists the sky-high tax is here to stay.
Fire bombings in Victoria. Ram raids in New South Wales. Queensland, the latest state to see a spike in targeted torchings as the tobacco turf wars and the battle for control of the black market goes nationwide.
The situation as it currently stands is intolerable. It's not working. Something's got to change.
The New South Wales Premier this week blaming the federal government's annual tobacco tax hike for an illegal tobacco trade that's thriving, calling on the PM to slash the tax. A move the Treasurer has ruled out.
I don't think the answer here is to make cigarettes cheaper for people. I think the answer here is to get better at compliance.
Since 2013, the tobacco excise has jumped 282% and taking the average price of a 25-pack of legal cigarettes to around $50. That's around triple the price of a pack of under-the-counter smokes, which cost as little as $15.
It's just not working, and it's driving law-abiding people who follow the rules every day of the week into an illegal marketplace.
And while smoking rates are down...
Since the increase in tobacco excise started a little more than a decade ago, 1 million fewer Australians are smoking.
So too is government revenue.
This would be the only tax in the history of the world that has doubled, but revenues will decline by 33%.
The broader industry, we understand, in the last year alone, has lost about $6 billion in legal sales, and all of that has transferred directly to the illegal market.
But the federal government says making legal cigarettes cheaper won't beat the black market.
If you look at other countries that have substantially lower priced cigarettes than Australia, the US, some European countries, most in Asia as well, they also have thriving black markets.
Since March 2023, there have been more than 130 fire bombings in Melbourne. In Sydney, for every one McDonald's, there are 60 smoke shops.
You have to be willful at this point to believe that there's nothing taking place. Clearly, our main streets are being taken over by tobacconists. The reason for that is because of illegal tobacco.
So can we snuff out the black market by lowering prices, or has the window to beat illegal tobacco already gone up in smoke?
Rohan Pike is a former federal police officer who helped found the Australian Border Force's Tobacco Strike Force. Rohan, do you agree with Premier Minns? Is the answer slashing the tax?
Well, good evening. Yes, I agree with everything Premier Minns said this week. Slashing the tax is one of the solutions to helping this problem. How far we slash that is a matter that needs some research. But when the legal price is 3 times the illicit price, it's clearly driving people to the illegal product.
The government would argue, though, that other countries where legal cigarettes are cheaper have equally thriving black markets. What do you say to that?
Well, I'd say that's not true. What countries are they talking about? In Korea, the illicit rate is 3%. In Japan, it's less than that. In Singapore, the illicit rate is 2.5%. Across Europe, it's about 10% across all 38 countries there. And here, the illicit rate is 50% plus. Some sources say it could be as high as 70%.
Doesn't it stand to reason, though, that if they cut the tax, as long as the legal product is more expensive than the black market product, people will buy that? So, I mean, I don't even know if it would be possible to make it cheaper, but ultimately all they'll do is lose revenue. They won't actually solve that problem.
The criminals will lose revenue, and we'd like to think that your average Australian is a law-abiding citizen. And generally they were up until a few years ago, until the tax became so extreme. Combined with the cost of living crisis, they just decided that enough was enough and they weren't going to pay those excessive prices. So there is a balance, there is a level where people will hopefully return to the legal product.
But the way-in's different to the way out, right? I can imagine there would be people who would only go to the black market once it becomes expensive. But having gone there, I mean, they just wouldn't want to pay any more, would they? Like, I just don't know how you figure out whether or not this would be possible.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's now an entrenched market in the illicit side of it. So what it needs is an incentive. As I say, I don't know what that price point would be, but it needs some research. Perhaps go and ask 10,000 smokers what price would encourage them back to the legal market. But of course, it needs to also come with increased enforcement and force people back to that product.
If you sorted it out at the border, could you keep the tax where it is so that you discourage people from smoking in the way that used to work?
Theoretically, yes, that's true, but there's no product that's been able to be, no illicit product has been able to be stopped at the border because our border settings are not designed to search every container and stop every illicit product coming through. There's always going to be illicit products get through the border if you send enough, bombard the border enough.
Rohan Pike, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, the brave volunteers in this next story wear wetsuits, not capes, but they're no doubt heroes. They put their lives on hold and on the line to save hundreds from the recent flood disaster on the New South Wales mid-north coast.
Can't really see much. The water's muddy. You have no idea what you're walking into. You could walk into a fence, a hole.
You couldn't really hear too much, just wading through sort of an eerie silence.
We wear wetsuit, helmet, boots, gloves.
Life jacket and a throw bag.
Yeah.
Good to roll. My name's Jason Harvey. I'm a retail store manager.
And I'm Amanda Penhall and I work in construction.
When record-breaking floods hit the mid-coast town of Taree, a small squad of locals known as VRA Rescue left behind their jobs and families to join the emergency response.
Called up by the police or other services for road crash, animal rescue, assist other services like ambulance, fire and rescue, police.
We're on call 24/7. That phone rings and we just go, no matter what time it is.
Mandy's a grandma who's been a volunteer rescuer for 10 years. Her family was one of thousands cut off at the peak of the floods. Yet, without hesitation, she swung into action.
We had warnings it was going to be major. Tuesday afternoon, we knew we were in for a big one.
Over the next 5 days, the team of 24 volunteers would go on to perform around 120 rescues, welfare checks, evacuations and medical drops in the flood-ravaged region.
You're like zooming in with the rescue truck, and some had cats in cages, dogs on leads, and so you just leave them at the evac centre and off you go again.
I slept for an hour and a half on the Tuesday night, I think. Got back here after a rescue and I slept in the back of our truck. Then I got woken for another rescue.
When people are needing rescue and you're a rescuer, you can't just go to sleep. You want to just help everyone.
Because this is our community we live in as well. These are people that you see every day and people that we might go to work with or see at work that are now probably having one of the worst days of their lives.
With streets turning into rivers, they relied on a non-motorised boat called an Archangel to ferry stranded people to safety.
But there was a lot of times where we actually had to swim as well while dragging the boat.
Plus you got contaminants in the water.
Yeah, dirty water.
Some we did in the industrial area, cars had lost their transmission fluid and their fuel. It's the worst thing probably about flood water is it's literally everything's washed into that water. And you can't see it because it's not crystal clear.
What I'd like you to do is try and spin your feet around over the side, okay?
We done a rescue on farmland and our feet were getting tangled up. The wind was blowing so hard that we couldn't paddle the Archangel.
With floodwaters rising rapidly, they weren't sure if they'd make it in time to evacuate a woman with dementia.
She was in her 80s and just a farmer. The road was closing. Floodwater just coming in all around us. It was like now or never. And we just got the Archangel off the roof and just swam across the farmland about 600 metres. And we rescued her out of a house that went under in 2021. So would have gone under again for sure.
I rescued the 6-week-old baby from the second story of a house that sits on the Manning River. I took the baby and the mother first and just straight over the railing on the veranda, straight down into the boat as that water was just starting to reach that second level.
Jason has 2 young kids and says it was a medical drop rather than a rescue that hit him hardest. A mother isolated by floodwaters was about to run out of specialised baby formula for her 6-month-old.
The mother came out holding the little boy, and he was obviously distressed, and she was quite distressed, and told us that she'd been rationing the formula. So even though that's not as dramatic as a swiftwater rescue, it's almost affects you in a different way, just knowing the baby isn't in any danger from water, but is in danger from starving.
The hardest thing I saw was people that were underprepared or didn't think that it was going to be quite as bad as it was.
Because when we were door knocking and saying there's been an order given, we're not the authority to move them on. Then when they don't, and then turn around 12 hours later and go, where are you, where are you? That's probably the hardest. So.
You good?
Brock's captain of the tight-knit rescue squad and says the flood event pushed them all to their physical and emotional limits.
It is a bit challenging going home and putting on that brave face and pretending you haven't just seen the things that you've seen.
When it's all done and dusted and all over is when everything catches up with you a bit. You see a lot of family, friends that are just suffering and will suffer for a long time.
You think about how lucky I was compared to some of the other people up here, definitely, and how quick life can change.
So why do they do it?
To make a positive difference.
Just to help. That's all we can do.
Will we do it again? Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not,
but if we had to do it again, we would be prepared.
Oh, yeah, I'd give it all back.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Just extraordinary people, and to think of how traumatising that experience is for the whole community, and that they have the wherewithal to go, I'm just going to push down my own stuff and keep moving. I take my hat off to them. I think they're amazing.
I think that's forgotten. It's like, because these are superheroes that go in and risk their lives, right? And you just think they're bulletproof. Yeah. And you can see there just how it actually does stay with them, and there is that toll.
Totally.
We have to take a break, but we'll be right back.
Welcome back. You are watching The Project.
Now, a family of young superfans has scored the ultimate pop star moment after Katy Perry pulled them on stage during the opening night of her Lifetimes tour in Sydney. The 3 siblings and their cousin got to chat to the singer and even request a song. But the real showstopper came when Katy recorded a video to help one of them get through an exam.
We might be a little bit tired because we were on the stage last night. I'd like to pass English, right? Please, Miss Eunice, have some kindness for us.
Let's see if they were successful. Superfans Elie, Perla, Tiana and Nour with us now. Welcome, guys.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Tiana, we'll get to you and your schooling, but Elie, first of all, how did this happen?
Crazy. It was like, it all just fell into place. I got all 4 of us tickets. It was like on the new night she announced, and from there, I didn't really know who I was going to take, but I knew I was going to take them 2 for sure. Then Tiana came on, and it was like the perfect, like we were just dynamic. It was really great.
Yeah, dynamic. You were definitely dynamic. Tiana, I mean, to get the call up is one thing, but now this exam situation. Did you get out of the exam today?
Yeah. Yes. I'm so thankful I got out of the exam. Thank you to Katy Perry. It was really nice.
Do you need an excuse to get out of anything tomorrow? Because Waleed would be more than happy to record a message for you right now, actually.
100%. I have so many exams tomorrow. I have religion, science and math.
Do you want to take the whole day off?
If the teachers are watching, she's having a very busy night on national television. And she basically needs never to do exams ever again.
And you're a doctor as well, right?
Yeah, I've taught at a university, so I know that she doesn't need to do them.
Oh, wow.
Perla, what did you talk to Katy Perry about?
Well, she asked me what I wanted to be when I was older. Oh. And when I told her I wanted to be an architect, she told me to keep following my dreams and not let anyone stop me. It was really nice.
Oh, that's so nice. Perla, am I right in thinking that this was your first concert?
Oh. Yeah, it was my first concert.
Now, this is incredible. Do you know that it's not every concert that you get to meet the person performing? Do you know that?
Yeah.
Hey, Nour, why do you think you were picked?
I reckon it was because of Elie, aka the shark, and Perla's outfit that really spotted her eye, and and the signs as well.
Yeah. You look like you worked really hard on those. How long did they take?
I think it was about like 2 weeks. Yeah.
2 weeks.
Oh,
Wow.
yes. Well, guys, just before we let you go, because, you know, Katy Perry, she has been in the headlines most recently, and some of the comments about her haven't been all that complimentary. What do you say to all those Katy Perry haters out there right now?
I reckon do not listen to them, Katy. If you're watching this, your new album is great and all your music is great and you are great, okay? Don't listen to them, okay? Trust me, I'm less shocked, you know? It's coming from me. I know I did you wrong in the Super Bowl, but, like, I did you right this time, okay?
Guys, congratulations. What a night. A story you'll be able to tell forever. Elie, Tiana, Nour, Perla, thanks so much for speaking to us.
Thank you very much for having us.
Listen to the shark.
Very good. Yellow. Great shark. Now, you may remember last night we brought you the story of 4-year-old Hannah, who's battling a rare genetic disorder called Swan syndrome. Swan stands for syndrome without a name. That's how complex it is. It left Hannah with severe needs, continuous medical appointments, something that's extremely taxing on her and her family. Here's a bit.
It's a shot. I've had moments of thinking and saying that I can't do this anymore. It's too much. Like, why us? We didn't ask for this. But you're put in a situation, we just have to continue to fight for her and for us.
So we're helping Hannah and her family get a wheelchair accessible vehicle, particularly something like a Kia Carnival.
Yep.
If you would like to help, and I know the project audience helps like no other audience on Australian TV, scan the QR code on your screen, head to our website for details. So far, just over $24,000 has been raised through their GoFundMe page. So about halfway.
If you are able to donate, please do. It's such a wonderful family. OK, we've got to take a break. We'll be back.
Welcome back. What's the project?
Our next guest has been enjoying all the spoils that parenthood has to offer.
I was in the park, right, and I did a fart, right, that I would normally blame on Gwen. But I hadn't anticipated the heft of the fart. It was clearly an adult fart. There was no way this fart was emanating out of a toddler, right? It would have blown her tiny ass clean off.
Please welcome Lloyd Langford. Now, Lloyd, can I first commend you on the use of heft?
What a word.
What a word. What a word. Are you still blaming your farts on your daughter?
Well, this may be poor choice of words, but that has backfired. My daughter can talk now, and she, at the moment, exclusively refers to me as Mr. Fart Man.
Nice.
Which is something that Anne has unsurprisingly encouraged.
Yes.
I think that's called karma.
Well, there you go.
It's interesting to me to be in a family dynamic where I have the least authority. And one of those persons is a 3-year-old child.
Yeah. Look, well, thanks for coming in, Mr. Fartman. Much appreciated. Speaking of births of powerful energy, I mean, Mr. Fartman makes sense. But you've been touring your show, Powerful Energy. How's it all going?
It's been fun. I had a very interesting experience in Melbourne. I was doing the comedy festival here, and a lady started beeping very loudly 5 minutes in.
Beeping?
She was beeping. And I said, I think maybe your phone or something. Can you sort it out? And she said, oh, don't worry, it's diabetes.
Oh.
Right.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know much about diabetes, but, like, it doesn't involve beeping. Right? It's like the pancreas unable to produce enough insulin. She had a alarm that was going off. And I said, I think you need to sort that out. And she was like, yeah, it's fine. Like, don't worry about it.
She didn't want to miss anything.
I know. I was like, I don't know. I think you fundamentally misunderstood the purpose of an alarm. Like, it's not going off to tell you everything's A-OK. Like, eat a cherry ripe. Like,
That's incredible. So she was putting your comedy ahead of her.
She was very blasé about it, and I was kind of worried.
Do you think is that maybe you attract these committed audience that they're like seeing Lloyd is the most important thing of all time? Is that your fan base?
Well, not at all, because I was just doing the Sydney Comedy Festival, and I start the show, and there's a lady down the front keeps checking her phone, looking at me, checking her phone, looking at me. Then she gets up, leaves, speaks to a member of staff, and then just walks out and doesn't come back.
Fantastic.
And in the same venue at the same time, there was another show called the Incredible Japanese Comedy Showcase. And
Which you also headline.
it took her 10 minutes of looking at the phone and looking at me and thinking, I don't think he is Japanese. Then she had to double check with a staff member, and they were like, no, you're in the wrong room.
Well, you're lucky that she didn't back out of the room because she might have beeped as she went.
Hey, so I think last time we were on, it was before the actors where you and your wife Anne were both nominated in the same category.
Yes.
She won.
Obviously.
Yeah. But I will say, I thought she was very gracious in her acceptance speech. Because it's a tricky sort of circumstance, but I was quite touching, I thought. Let's have a look.
I just want to say straight up to my partner Lloyd, who was nominated in the same category, suck shit!
Yeah, I feel like I've been disrespected.
Did you end up discussing this at home?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to the actors' ceremony, but it's like 4.5 hours.
It is long, yeah.
5 hours, and you're not allowed to discuss anything, like in the audience.
Yeah.
You just have to watch. So yeah, I was. I had a lot of thinking time. I had a lot of. I was very, very direct after the 5 hours.
Yeah, got you.
You could ruminate on it again and again.
Indeed. Well, you can head to our website for details on where you can see extra nights of, was it the Japanese? No, not that. Lloyd's show,
Great job,
Powerful
though.
Energy. Would you please thank Lloyd Langford?
Please thank Susan Newsome, of course. Stick around for Airport Australia 24/7. Great voiceover. And now the soccer is at 8:30. We'll see you tomorrow at 6:30. Bye.